name's Hope, and mine's
Hi.
Faith.
Hi, Faith. Hi, Hope. Hi.
We started this basically, it's a youth-led organization, and we're actually on the like road to setting up a 501(c)(3) as a nonprofit.
So
And we're
cool.
partnered with ANED. I don't know if you know
Okay.
ANED.
I
So we
don't.
partner with them. They're basically like they work with eating disorders. They're an organization that specializes with like eating disorder awareness and providing support and help.
Yeah.
But I guess a little bit about our organization called Project Balance. Faith can
Mm-hmm.
explain it to you. So we're focused on promoting a broader, healthier understanding of mental illness, and we want to shift how students view self-worth and unhealthy behaviors and health stereotypes by spreading mental health awareness and education. And we just want to bring light to those who are struggling silently and create a more inclusive society.
That's
Um,
awesome. That's
and like
awesome.
I feel like I forgot to mention this too. We also started this. At first I had like the idea like maybe I want to spread awareness because I myself was diagnosed with anorexia when I was 12 and I'm
Mm.
17 right now. So
Yeah.
it's been around like 5 years.
5 years. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've been in and out of treatment for 5 years.
Okay.
I have been fully recovered now for 2 years. So I
Amazing.
ended like my intensive inpatient recovery 2 years ago, my
Cool.
freshman year of high school. And I feel like going through those treatments and meeting these different people in different stages of recovery and being able to just look at my accomplishments and my struggles and seeing what I did to like truly want recovery and truly wanting to like fight back my eating disorder, I kind of wanted to utilize that and spread my voice. So this is also a reason why we started this. Yeah.
That's so cool. Are you guys sisters?
We're twins.
Oh my gosh, no way. So
Yeah.
cool. So
Yeah.
cool.
I guess our first question
Yeah.
is I was reading your bio and your website,
Yeah.
and I guess our first question is, what does like mental health and recovery mean to you personally? If you are okay with
Answering?
um,
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. I think that's like a great question. So I think mental health and recovery is like a spectrum. So as someone who has also recovered from an eating disorder, we know it's not, as the saying goes, linear, and everyone doesn't, love that saying, but it's true, right? It's going to ebb and flow. And mental health, particularly, is kind of a continuum of us as individuals and our state of well-being. It takes into account our coping skills, our stressors, our productivity, our relationships, our community, and it encompasses kind of all of like who we are, and helps us form psychological connections, emotional connections, personal connections, which are all part of our kind of everyday life. And then recovery for me just really represents freedom and peace. Because I think, when I was in my eating disorder, I struggled to feel either of those things. So, I don't feel peaceful all the time. I'm a little bit of an anxious girly, but overall there is a lot more peace and a lot more freedom in my life around food and body, as well as just in general. Now that I am in stronger stages of recovery. And if you're someone listening to this and you're like, sounds nice, but that can't be me, like I promise it can be. And I think like a first step is just like, reaching out for help, or, maybe asking yourself like, you know, what you need to take that first step.
I know a lot of different like girls and people I've talked to like in beginning or like different stages of their recovery. A lot of times it's like I feel like I'm never gonna get there. If you could like provide any words of encouragement or like what would you say about does that feelings of freedom come gradually or does it come like how does it, I guess?
Yeah, I think for like everyone it's different, but I think for me it was definitely like over time, and it's something I still like actively work at as I take care of going back to like mental health in general and just like my well-being, because as people we are whole people. Our physical health matters, our mental health matters, as well as like our spiritual health and all of that, and you know personal, professional. There are just many aspects to who we are. We are multifaceted, incredible people, being as humans. Like we are, incredible and amazing, and we don't give ourselves enough credit. And part of being a human is enduring suffering. And in an eating disorder, there is suffering. But I think if you're hearing this and you're saying, I don't know where to start, or that can't be me, know that that freedom can come and is in your grasp. It just takes work and time. And I'm sure can remember that as well.
Yeah, definitely. Um, Another thing I want to touch on too
Yeah.
is I know a lot of times, especially with young adults and especially in high school, with like diet culture and its influence
Yeah.
on surrounding these ideas, how like it creates these misconceptions and how like have you personally or how you have helped people combat these stigmas?
Yeah. Oh, totally. There's so many, right? But so I picked a couple that like came to mind. And the first one and the most important one that I think we really need to work to move away from is that people associate eating disorders with a size. They tend to associate it with someone who is, emaciated, and typically female, but neither of those things are true. Men and people of all genders can have eating disorders. And in regards to size, only about 6% of people who are clinically diagnosed with an eating disorder are in fact underweight. And that's actually like something we really want to move away from because that stigma can be really harmful and can, limit people who are in average or bigger bodies from receiving the appropriate care they deserve. Eating disorders can exist at every and all sizes, unfortunately, and can exist in all genders as well. I think also that it is like a vain disorder. No, right? Like,
Yeah.
heck no. So it's like quite the opposite. And I don't know if you experienced this, but oftentimes an eating disorder is a coping skill or coping skills gone wrong, right? So we would call them in the clinical world maladaptive. I don't love that term, but many clients, and I know I experienced this, have some type of relief when they engage in the symptom, or else it wouldn't be long standing. They wouldn't continue to struggle. They wouldn't keep reaching for that relief through their eating disorder. I sometimes will say, like, it still serves them or served me in some capacity. It may have even felt safe. I know I felt that at times. It was what I knew. So it was what I kept going back to. But it surely is not vanity. It is often very little to do with you know your body, although it does, because a symptom of the eating disorder is fear around gaining weight. That can be a symptom, and struggles with body image and body perception can be a symptom, but it often isn't vain and isn't really about the thinness. That's the surface, but what's underneath is much deeper and requires much more healing, and new ways to cope.
Yeah. And
Uh,
as like a sibling, seeing, my loved one go through it and just like observing how teenagers with who are struggling or just in general, like in my school,
mhm,
there are several influences that have led people to have those thoughts or the behaviors. And
mhm.
I feel like a big one is like how has social media impacted eating disorders and mental health?
Oh my gosh, girl, where do we start?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
so obviously there is the comparison culture as well as like filters and the overexposure to just things that aren't real.
Yeah.
Social media is often a highlight reel, and that's not all bad. I don't want to give social media this terrible rap, right? That said, when we excessively engage, and there are some statistics that I'll share, when we excessively engage, it can be harmful and can lead to struggles of feeling worse about our body as well as feeling worse about our lives. Typically, 1 in 3 adolescents say that social media has led them to engage in disordered eating behaviors. About 80% of people with eating disorders report that social media contributed. Again, not the culprit of the eating disorder, but it surely didn't help, and can sometimes worsen the symptoms. A lot of times, people who engage in, I'll call it excessive, but you take it for what you will, like 3 hours or more of social media usage in a day are twice as likely to develop eating disorders, and that's a lot. And sometimes we don't even realize when we're scrolling, but there's the comparison culture, there's the like I said, the filters that are just not real, and then just the impossible beauty standards that are constantly in our face when we are on social media. Now we can diversify our feed and look at different things. We have the power to do that, but gosh, it's hard. And especially when we're in our disorder, that's a really challenging thing to do. So it can, again, not the culprit, but it really can, um, you know, contribute to the activation of symptoms as well as longstanding struggles.
I agree. Yeah, like the bombardment of these standards and like what I eat in a day
Yeah.
and videos like that. It's so like after a while it gets very like repetitive and almost influential.
Yeah.
I guess like count like coming back to the acceptance and freedom part
Yeah.
and the influence of social media and society on that. I
Mhm.
know like within at least my eating disorder, I know like a bunch of people in recovery, out of recovery I've talked to that acceptance part and like I feel like a big thing accepting the eating disorder instead of hating it.
Mm.
How would you like not accepting that like obviously what happened wasn't like great, but like
Yeah.
accepting what you went through and how would you say that helps against the I guess opposite of what society is saying like this there's saying one thing like this eating disorders are like hate them they're bad but then oh you need to look a certain way and this is the food you need to eat this is the diet you need to follow.
Yeah. So I think what you're asking, and tell me if I'm understanding, of like when we go through recovery, we come to a place of acceptance of like that our eating disorder is a part of us, but it does not define us. And we also don't have to be defined by society standards. And
Yeah.
I think like working in recovery and having conversations, one, around these unrealistic standards and these unhelpful things that exist in our society, like social media, and how to manage that because it's not going anywhere. And again, it's not all bad. I think can be really powerful, and also having a lot of self-compassion, right? Because I think there is this misconception. I didn't mention this one, but that eating disorders are a choice. Nobody in the world, nobody who has ever struggled, woke up and said, I want to have anorexia today. I want to have bulimia today. I want to purge. Nobody.
Yeah.
We choose recovery, yes, which is small steps towards wellness and recovery enhancing behaviors as much as we can, but we don't choose our disorders. So I think making peace and having compassion with those parts of ourselves and those times that recovery may feel hard and also kind of challenging the cultural norms and rejecting diet culture and things like that can be really powerful.
Yeah. um I definitely do think, like, not only with social media, but I guess I've heard a lot too within young adults what their friends say to them or what family says to them. How can like friends and family support someone struggling not only with eating disorders but like with anxiety or depression without it seeming like judging them or
Yeah.
putting them down because of that disorder?
Oh, sure. So I think first approach with curiosity and kindness, right? Like that's how we want to approach others in life, but also our loved ones. And if someone is struggling, try to just meet them where they're at. They are the expert on them, but showing them curiosity, you want to understand, maybe you don't, right? And also knowing your shortcomings. I don't understand, but I love you.
Mhm.
Or, I can see that you're struggling, let me just be with you in that, right? Not what do you need? Because sometimes we don't know what we need when we're struggling, but just know that I'm here for you, or you don't have to carry it alone. Also, specifically in regards to eating disorders, but I would say in general, let's
Yeah.
just stop the body comments, right? When someone says, like, oh, you look so, insert body comment here. What did I look like before? What if we say, I love how brave you are?
Yeah.
Or very simply, nice blouse, right? We can keep it surface or we can go deep, but we don't have to keep it body oriented because people are already aware enough of their bodies. So I think that's like a really practical skill that, again, I know is so normal in society and is not necessarily bad. But if someone is struggling, whether it be with an eating disorder, depression, anxiety, body comments really aren't going to get you very far.
Yeah. Um, I guess like the last thing we can end off with
Yeah.
is if you had like one thing to say, not only to like anyone struggling, but also
Mhm.
like family members and friends trying to support them, or just in general people who aren't as aware of like mental health or eating disorders in general. If there's like one thing you would say to just everyone out there.
Yeah, healing is possible. That is hands down something I believe in everything in my being, and I experienced, and I get the privilege and honor of seeing others experience, as a therapist.
Yeah,
But healing is possible. Your eating disorder or whatever mental health struggle you might be dealing with does not have to define you. And yeah,
yeah,
there things will things will and can get better, and you are stronger than your disorder, whatever that might be.
yeah. Well, we appreciate so much for coming on and talking to us about this.
Yeah.
I loved hearing your insight, specifically like on your story, but also like how we can help not only our community, but even those outside of our community combat these
Mhm.
disorders. But thank you again so much for giving this opportunity. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thanks for having me. So
Of
here,